Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Thrive, Not Just Survive. I'm your host, Nasira Jamal, and I am so happy to be here today. I don't think I've ever mentioned this before, but Tuesday happens to be my favorite day of the week, and I don't really know why that is. Although I have an inkling, I kind of feel like I do know, but Tuesdays are my favorite day of the week. So having said that, I have a very special guest on today that is going to talk to us about a very important aspect to a entrepreneur or a small business's really day-to-day activity, which can be mundane at times and can be construed as one of those things that they don't like doing, but they have to do. So today's guest is someone who's going to walk us through the idea or the part of the business, which is our bookkeeping business, and how do we keep it intact, and how do we really figure out when is it that we need to bring on a bookkeeper into our business so that we can really continue with serving our customers, our clients, and doing what we are designed to do, which is share our zone of genius. And I love how Megan has created this particular part in her business to help others really flourish in there. So let's bring Megan on so we can start this conversation. Hey, Megan, welcome aboard. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Thrive, Not Just Survive. I'm so grateful that you are here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So before we start, I just want to give our audience a framework of who you are and how you got to doing what you're doing, which I know pre-show, the love for what you're doing is so evident because you speak from your heart. So share with us your story on how you began this.
Sure. I was a public school teacher actually for 12 years, and my husband and I really felt compelled for me to come home and be with our kids, spend time with them, raise them. And we really wanted to homeschool, all of this pre-COVID. And so it just took a lot of decisions. My husband got a different job. We moved houses, but then we still went like, how do I supplement our income in the way that really works for us? And I had always been very left brain. And a friend of mine said, I went through this bookkeeping training. It's really rigorous, but it's really good. And I think you'd be really good at it. So I kind of thought about it for a while. And when I finally jumped in, I'm so glad I did. It's been such a good fit. And then I ended up getting to work with that same gal to subcontract for a while. And I've loved every minute of it. And bookkeeping, I'm kind of going, if you had asked me 5 years ago, are you going to be a bookkeeper? No. Are you going to own your own business? No. But now I can't imagine it any other way.
And I love that you said that, you took a while to kind of figure it out. How do you put it in place? Like if you wanted to homeschool, you still needed to generate that income, but yes. How do you put it all together that is really harmonious for the family and for yourself to align with something that you want to do, as opposed to having, being forced to doing something you dislike. So I love the fact that you took the time. And the other part of that is, sometimes people say something to us saying, I think you'd be really good at this, or how about this, right? It shows up in our experience and it's us taking that next step. Yeah. So this is about the journey of entrepreneurship. As a school teacher, this is not something perhaps you had initially thought about, correct?
No, I had not thought about it before, but you're right. It did take a lot of time and thought and consideration before I jumped in.
Exactly. And I want to sort of put that out there for those that are watching this, whether on live or replay, is maybe you're in that place. Maybe you're not sure if entrepreneurship is for you, or you've been considering different things. Really look out there for people that have done it, people that have taken that journey, and start speaking to them and see the road they took and how they kind of went through that process in their brain. So that's one part of your journey. And then, so now I want to kind of go a little bit deeper, that you work with a certain type of business or a certain type of client. So can you talk to us about who is your ideal client that you really help from the bookkeeping perspective?
Sure. I work with small and medium-sized businesses. Large businesses end up needing multiple people on site, in-house to manage, that big of a company. Small and medium-sized businesses, I prefer to work with service-based businesses, but I wouldn't say no to a product-based service or product-based industry person. I work with all sizes because I provide different service levels. I mean, I do some training for people that are maybe smaller and not ready to launch into turning over everything. But typically the sweet spot is once they've hit that $250,000 in revenue, they're ready and have enough money to allocate to get monthly support. We say bookkeeping, a healthy amount is 1 to 2% of your yearly revenue. You can say, I'll spend that in my year for bookkeeping. And once they get to 250,000, that really allows for some buffer room to be able to afford that. That's not to say that people that are smaller can't. We just might need to look at an adjusted package.
Right.
But that's kind of my sweet spot right there.
That's wonderful, because I think at that point, it's when you have to decide that, are you going to take up your time, which is, really valuable as a business owner, and really, are you going to still continue to do it even though it's not your zone of genius? Or do you allocate it or outsource it to someone who can do it for you? And it allows you to really concentrate on what you're good at, what your business is based on, and be more, if it's service oriented, service even more, and scale your business further, because you're taking away a component that is very large, right? In terms of keeping the bookkeeping, the books up, and taxes, and all of these things that can be time consuming. So what kind of service, like what is it that you do? Like, is it a month to month? How does it work for businesses that are looking at hiring a bookkeeper?
Sure. So bookkeeping is best done on a monthly basis so that you can stay informed on a month-to-month basis. If you get too far removed, then it's hard to make decisions that are related to what we just processed. So we work on a monthly basis. I do things like categorizing income and expenses, making sure that everything is put in the correct place. And then we can talk about things like if you want to track certain streams of income or streams of revenue and those sorts, or if you want to watch certain expenses to track those and make sure we're not spending too much, I can set that up and we can categorize and track that. We do monthly reconciliations where we're double checking that everything with the bank that the bank has said is what's actually happening in your file. And then we can run reports. And really the sweet spot is being able to have a chat with you monthly of what's going on with your money and your cash flow. And we can run all kinds of different reports. If you're concerned that you're sending out invoices and people aren't paying you, then we can run a report and look at, so who's not paid and what do we think is causing this and how do we think we want to rectify it? Or if you're having issues with, you've developed 3 different services that you provide and you want to see which one's most profitable, we can run reports and look at numbers that show which one really is making you the most money, or maybe which one's costing you the most money and maybe it's time to stop that one.
Right.
So that's kind of the general idea. There are other things that we can add in that are not always typically a monthly thing. If your books are messy, we can do cleanups. If you're behind or now you're ready for a software and you want to get caught up, we do that. So different things like that.
And I guess, obviously this is done virtually, right? So you can really help people. It's not like you have to go in person.
Right.
Perfect. So I want to, I actually teach, part of one of my courses is I teach business intelligence, and I share with entrepreneurs and people that I'm training how important it is that you use data to actually make your decisions, right? As opposed to just saying this feels good. But I love the fact that when you're running reports to say, well, if you're having a couple of different services, which one is actually generating you a bigger or a different ROI? And without really knowing all of this, you could be really perhaps in your business being led the wrong way, right? If you don't know that data of what is working, what's not working, where is it that you could scale? So I love the fact that you can help entrepreneurs really dive into that data piece, because then that will drive their decisions in a way that they can actually make more money based on that information.
Absolutely. It's easy at the end of a workday to just be frustrated from providing service C and go, oh, I hate doing this. This is so aggravating. I'm just going to stop doing it.
Right.
That's fine that you have feelings. You just have to be able to step back and say, is it really helping my business though? And maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Or you have to decide, maybe it's making me just as much as service B, but it's bringing me so much headache. Then maybe it is worth deciding if you want to keep providing it. But like you said, data-based is always the best way to make your decisions.
Right, because it's clear and it's a science, right? Like it's going to really guide you in the direction. And also, I think that for a lot of entrepreneurs, because if they are doing something that they don't know if the ROI is there, or even if the ROI is there, but they don't really like doing it, I think the idea of, doing your business and loving it, and you emit a different vibration, a different energy towards people. People can read that into you as well, right? So I think once you have the data that says, hey, you know what, this perhaps isn't the right way and I'm not feeling good about it anyways, I can really lean over to something else that is working and really put the fuel on the fire to make it grow even further. And I think the other part of this, which I think where you come in, is that second set of eyes that's objective, right? As opposed to when we're in the business, we're looking at it, sometimes it's very gray and skewed for us. That second pair of eyes can be that, sort of new set of lenses that are looking at it from a very different perspective, not from an emotional perspective, right? You're very objective looking at that business plan and saying, okay, this is where it's going and this is where it could be going.
Right.
I love that. Yeah, and I like the fact that there's a partnership that you provide for the business owner. So they're not feeling like, it's just your data entry position of somebody just, creating this report, but really creating a relationship of a trusted advisor.
Yes, and that's really what I love most. The data entry, like, I don't mind that. That's part of the job. And sometimes figuring that out as a puzzle is kind of fun for me. A lot of people wouldn't see it that way. And that's fine. But what I really love is the relational piece, being able to sit down with a business owner and say, okay, here's what we're seeing. And just give them a second to help them understand. Because a lot of people say, well, I know I have to give a profit and loss statement to my bank when I need a loan, or to my tax person at tax time. But understanding and being able to help them really look through it and say, what is this telling me? What can I do with this? Here are the problems I'm having. Can you help me figure out what it is that we could do to fix this? Those are the moments that I really, really love about doing bookkeeping or being
and again, there's such a nugget there that, it's about finding the solution. Sometimes you're in the entrepreneurs are in the thick and thin of things, of not even seeing clarity, right? Because it's just like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. But when someone comes in and looks at it from a very different perspective and can really look at giving solutions and strategies of, that breathing space, I think is instrumental in the growth of any business, no matter what size you're at, right? So I love the fact that you enjoy doing that. And I'm sure for your clients, this is where they probably see a lot of value in having you as part of their team.
Yeah. And that's the part that I love. I want them to see the value. If they just want somebody to do data entry, you don't have to have a relationship with somebody. You have to have a contract.
Right.
And so, but to provide value, there really does need to be the relational piece there. And so that's really what I try to build from the beginning, is that I'm on your team, I'm a part of your team. You're the business owner, so you make the decisions at the end of the day. I'll make good suggestions for you. But yeah, another set of eyes to be a cheerleader on their team, help them figure out how to make this business win.
Absolutely. I think that's just one of those things, that pieces of the puzzle that need to be in place as you're growing a business, right? So, and when you have that team member, you know that you're not alone and that you are getting that guidance. And sometimes it's just nice to bounce things off, even if you're thinking of something new or something that's coming up, you can at least bounce it off somebody. So now let me talk to you a little bit about if somebody wanted or is thinking about it. Maybe they're just at that point where, should I get a bookkeeper? Should I not? Is it time? What does it entail? How do they get a hold of you? Like, where is it that this sort of journey begins for an entrepreneur?
Well, the best place to go is to check out our website, cardinalfinancialsolutions.com. There you can see what we can provide for you. Like, there's a very detailed list of services, explain some great things about our business and what we can provide, but also there's a contact us page and you can make an appointment there. I do free consultations where we sit down and just discuss how is your business going? What's going on? What are the needs that you have? And figuring out how to make a plan for you. Whether we move forward with that plan or not, obviously I'd love to do that. But if it's not time, then you at least have the plan of what I would suggest for you to do next. And it may be you go, I'm just not ready, or I'm just not bringing in enough revenue to pay somebody yet. And that's totally understandable. I mean, that's a reality for a lot of business owners. But then we've at least connected, and you want to come back in 6 months, 12 months when you go, my business has grown and now I don't want to do this and I can afford to, have somebody do this for me. Come back, then we can talk again. But we start really early on too. I know a lot of people these days are very concerned about confidentiality and, well, I met you or I saw you on the internet, but I have never shaken your hand in person. We start there because everybody needs to understand that we do promise to keep things confidential and it will be safe and secure.
Right.
And then
and again, I like that you actually pointed that out, because in this world now that we're mostly everybody's doing everything online, it can be scary for some people, right? To say, well, I've never met this person. They're going to look at all of my financial data information. I'm releasing so much detail, to have the ability to know that it's safe, that there's confidentiality built in so that their information is protected. And I think that's really important when we're doing business online, no matter who we're talking to or hiring or, including in our team. So again, thank you for pointing that out, because I think for a lot of people that could become a question. And then, of course, I love the fact that you do these free consultations where people can speak to you. And when you're giving out a plan, even whether they hire you or not, you're still there as giving them some strategy, some sort of plan, a blueprint plan to say, well, this is what you'll need. And whether it's now or later, they know that you exist, that you are able to help when they're ready. And I like that you're helping them even when they're not ready.
Right. I actually have, I know I said, 250,000 is typically where you have the revenue to hire somebody, but too, it is about priorities as well. There's funds within your business that are discretional for you. And some people opt to use those before they hit 250,000. I actually have two, one's officially signed, hopefully one this week, that have started this year. And so we figured out a way to work together, and I'm doing more training with them for now. But we've talked about as they grow, they're like, I want to grow with you. And as I get bigger and I make more money, I want to turn this over to you. Like, I'm doing this for now because this is what I need to do for my business. And so even relationships like that are really neat to have as well.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? Because as you grow together with smaller businesses, perhaps they're not there yet, but if they're building this up, and even I think it's like a habit. If you're, especially when you're starting out a business, if you can start out with good habits of bookkeeping, even on a smaller scale, it makes it easier to grow into as you become a larger business.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes those other habits that you create, and they're not great habits of not having, for some businesses, it's like putting all the receipts in a box. And at some point, close to tax time, okay, now we got to take 2 weeks vacation to go through all of this and file them, right? So if we can start building habits that are actually going to help the business in terms of right from the beginning, I think that's, again, another recipe for success.
Yeah. And I think that's what those two ladies that I have begun working with and hope to start working with soon, I think that's what they've seen. I want to be set up right. I don't want to get lost and confused or have consequences and penalties, because the IRS is going to charge whether you meant to do it or not, and it's wrong. So getting hit with a big penalty in the beginning could be really detrimental to your business, even staying open. So having some help just to get set up sometimes provides some peace of mind that you can do it. It's going to be a little harder because you might have to do it in the beginning yourself, but it's going to save you time and keep your business open in the long run.
Yeah. And a lot of aggravation, really. You can really eliminate some of that. The other question I have for you is bookkeeping part of a business deduction? Can they use it as a tax deduction?
I think we are technically an expense, but it's an expense that you want to consider very seriously so that you don't hit the penalties. Or I guess you could call us a savings.
Well, no, what I'm talking about is like, yeah, I guess for me, it's like, I mean, I'm in Canada and I know you're in the US, so there are different tax rules, and I think people should, of course, talk to their tax professional. But for me here, I know that when I have my bookkeeper, I can deduct it as a business expense from my taxes because it is something I need to continue doing business. So this is something that people can look into, just talking to their tax professional to see if that they could actually even write that off. Which will,
Right. Even though I'm not a tax professional, people can still ask me tax questions, and I have lots and lots of tax people in my network that we can get answers for.
Right. And that's the other thing where I love, right, where you have a network of professionals that you can tap into if needed, depending on what the business owner needs, and to get those kinds of people even connected. Sometimes it's like we build out of our own network, when someone's perhaps in my business, somebody's looking for a lawyer, I'd be able to say, hey, there's 3 or 4 here that I know personally, you can, meet with them. So it's sharing the network of who we've built relationships with, which is then again that, that trusted advisor kind of role that you're playing, is to say, here's a slew of people that I personally know and recommend. And then, of course, they can choose to do so if that's what calls them, right? So I do think that in terms of having a bookkeeping service, a trusted advisor relationship, and then the network that you provide of different professionals is just worth its weight in gold as businesses hire you on, as they grow. So I think that's brilliant the way you've set this up. For somebody who, I'm going to ask you a question before we start to close this off, but for somebody who's starting out, who is now sort of looking at this, what kind of advice or words of wisdom would you give them if they're just starting to look at this as their next step of bookkeeping?
Obviously, reach out and let us chat. But if you're, and forgive me if I'm misunderstanding the question wrong, but if you're kind of not to the point where you're ready to hand off your bookkeeping, is that more of what you're asking?
Yeah.
So one of my clients that I just signed, she actually, I think, was the ideal person to sign on because she was really organized. And I know that not everybody says, oh, organization isn't my strength. You just have to start some good habits. So what she had done, I encourage people to use software because, QuickBooks Online is my favorite, but it runs reports. It helps organize and sort things. You can do all kinds of stuff with your numbers. But if you're not there, Excel can be a great best friend to at least keep records of this was the expense, this is when I had the expense occur, and this is what it was for. So you can at least have some kind of semblance of what happened during the year instead of getting to tax time and going, well, I think this was personal or I think this was business. Keeping track of things as you go, keeping track of your income that comes in, making sure like, okay, I got this much from this client. Keeping records like that is important. And again, Excel can organize all that for you. I don't typically encourage people to keep a shoebox, but keeping your receipts is better than throwing them away. With my clients, I like to use HubDoc. It's a digital, you can scan things in and you can use it without a bookkeeper. Obviously, you get better pricing with a bookkeeper, but you can use it or something like it where you keep records of your receipts. Because if you're ever audited, you just really want to have your records so that they can look and say, yep, everything's good and just move on. But when you don't have those records, that can be tricky. So I would say staying organized, maybe keeping spreadsheets for now, if things are just really small and low key, keeping your receipts, checking and making sure each month, does what's happening in my bank account, is that really what's happening in real life? Keeping tabs on that. Those would probably be my top 3 tips for someone who's still early on.
That's amazing. I think that's, again, for those that perhaps aren't ready to take that next step, to be able to kind of contain it for themselves so that the overwhelm doesn't get them, right? Because at the end of the day, there's a lot going on when you're trying to start up a business, learn all the different things that you're learning, trying to get clients, doing all of the things that are revenue generating. You still need to have a system in place that can keep things on a track sort of thing, right? Where you can access that information quickly, need be, if there's an audit or even just to give you sort of a diagnosis of the business at the end of the year.
Right. Absolutely. And that's again, it's forming good habits. Like get a spreadsheet set up and just, the day, what you're spending, how you would sort it category wise, and then the amount. It sounds like, oh, I have to sit down, just get organized from the beginning, take an hour, get a spreadsheet going, and then just keep filling it in as time goes by, every 2 weeks, once a month. And just keeping tabs on things. When we let things get too far away from us, that's when we forget and we remember. And then our records aren't very good for ourselves or for other entities that need our information at some point.
Exactly. And I think, I know when I was talking to my accountant a few years back, she had said to me, get into the habit of just having a book on your desk and just writing out daily and then keeping the receipts on that page, like, stapling it so for that day that's what happened, like gas receipts, or if you've bought something. This was of course when we were out more. Now it's more, things are, we're generally not going out a lot. But again, even if it was a book, for some people maybe technology is a stickler for them. They just are intimidated by even the word Excel, right? It doesn't have to get there. If you initially want to start out even just a book, and then keeping everything sort of daily, dating it, and keeping the receipts together will still make your mind at least feel a bit more structured, that's been done, and then you can continue with your other work. Because I think sometimes that worry that's in the back of your head that, oh my God, I don't know what I spent, I don't know where those receipts are, can really become something that can stop you from getting into your zone of genius for your business. So I think that's a great way that you've said, whether it's using a computer program or whether it's, manually, just start getting organized right from the beginning, right? Absolutely. Awesome. Well, you know what? This was great. I can't believe, we've talked for half an hour. We can probably talk for another half an hour, right? Because we have so much that we could share. But really, I want to encourage people, those who are watching or those that watch this on replay, is to connect with you. Go to your website, cardinalfinancialsolutions.com. I'm losing my words today. And to, reach out. Go on the contact page. I know you've got some information on the website that they could read through, and maybe a call with you will also ease some of that pressure just to feel a little bit more clear.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, please do check it out. Reach out. We would love to chat with you no matter where you are in your journey on your business.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time, joining me all the way from Kentucky, right? Illinois, that's where you're at. I want to wish you a wonderful week, a successful, happy, healthy, wonderful week, actually. And I hope to connect with you soon, and I hope others will reach out to you as well. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So I hope as you listen to Megan, you kind of got some sort of clarity, whether you're starting out or you're sort of looking at the next step of hiring a bookkeeper that can help you become more organized. Reach out to her, through her website, cardinalfinancialsolutions.com. I'll also be putting that in the chat box so you have it if you're watching this on replay. And again, if there's anything that I can do to help you, to connect you with other people, other networks, other resources, just let me know. Always here to help. And I want to wish you a wonderful, happy Tuesday. Remember to be kind to yourself and others. I'll see you tomorrow.